Hi, I'm Sophie, and welcome to my world. Now, you may or may not know that my real job is I make parties. I make parties for kids, I make parties for corporations, and one of the things that I do is I do these big, amazing craft tables. So the other day we were doing crafts and we were making these washer necklaces, and if you haven't checked that out, you should check it out. There's a link down below. I have this amazing fun video that I do with my friend Frankie. But anyway, we had all these washers there, and one of the kids came up and he said, hey, you know, these are super cool. Could we make them into a fidget spinner? And I was like, yeah, that, you know, I hadn't thought about that, but these are perfect for making a fidget spinner. So he and I played with the idea, and we came up with our version of a fidget spinner, which looks like this. Now, trust me, I know that this is not the real fidget spinner. Yeah, I have one of these and I know how cool these are. But, you know, for us making it and not having any ball bearings or anything like that, it turned out pretty cool. And so I'm going to teach you how to make my own version of a non-ball bearing fidget spinner right now. For this project, you're going to need a retractable pen, super glue or glue dots, a glue gun, 2 buttons or 2 bottle caps, paper, scissors, 5-inch strip of duct tape cut into tiny little 1/8 strips, X-Acto knife, ruler, 5 1 1/4 inch washers with 1/2 inch holes. Now I do want to give a shout out to Bria So Cute, who asked me to make this fidget spinner. So I have this little piece of paper here, and this I'm going to use as a little work surface just because I'm going to be using glue. And what happens with the glue sometimes is it dribbles. So I do want to be careful about that. So I've got 5 of these washers here, and what I'm going to basically be doing is making them into a triangle on top. So it's like 3 on top of one and then sandwiching between another one. So first thing I want to do is just kind of get them kind of evenly spaced out there, so I just make sure that I know how I want to do it. And the most important thing here is when I lay the glue down, and I'm going to be using this super glue, which really works very, very well, do not use hot glue. So I'm going to put a dot here, and a dot here, and a dot here. That was one of the main problems that we had when we were working on site with the kids, and we decided to make these fidget spinners, is we didn't have anything to hold these washers together really, really well. So the hot glue kind of came apart. It didn't stick very well. Okay, so I've got my 3 dots there, and I'm going to let that dry just a tiny, tiny bit, about 30 seconds, and then I lay it down here. And my main concern is that I want to make sure that my hole there is open and doesn't have any obstructions. That's going to be the most important thing, because that's going to be my center point. Okay, so I'm just going to place those on there. The nice thing with the crazy glue is it dries super quickly. So I've got my basic shape right there. Then I'm going to take 3 more dots of glue. Now it's important that you make sure that when you put the topper on, that you line it up so that the holes are in line with one another. And you might want to, just because you just want to make sure that it's perfectly lined up, you might want to take a pen or something like that and stick it in there just to make sure it's lined up. Okay, I'm going to let this dry. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut a circle. This is my little piece of paper. I'm going to cut a circle there, and I'm also going to cut a tiny little circle out of the middle to make sort of like an oversized donut here. This is going to be for later on when we're gluing in our centerpiece. There we go. So here's the thing about this. This is when it's all set and glued. And you know, it works really well, I think, just to spin with your fingers. But if you want to have a center post, which makes it spin and spin for a longer period of time, like this one, I'm going to teach you how to do that. But you can stop right here, right now, if you want to. Now, also, another thing that I want to mention that's kind of fun about using these is that you can actually color these with Sharpie pens. Kind of fun. So this is going to end up being part of my put together. This I'm going to take apart. I know you thought I was going to just use it as that centerpiece, but I'm not. What I need is this clicker. And what I'm going to do is just pop this all apart. And you have to find pens that come apart, because you want this part right here, just that little clicker part. Now, save all these other parts. There's great parts to pens. I mean, these pens have really neat things. They have springs and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to actually save this, put in my creativity fodder box for later. I'm going to move this off to the side. This is pretty dry here. I'm going to now use, you can use your hot glue at this point, and I'm going to use my hot glue gun for this point. This is for my 2 buttons. But if you want to, you can also use the super glue. I'm going to take a little drop of hot glue. I'm going to turn my button upside down so that the side without the ridge is facing up. I'm going to put a little drop of hot glue on here. And then I'm going to take my clicker piece and just place it right on top there. And I'm just going to pick that up so it doesn't stick, but then I'm going to let that dry really good. And while that's drying, I'm going to get this all ready over here. I'm going to cut this right down the center. Now, the reason that I have these tiny little itty-bitty strips of tape over here, this is a 5-inch piece of duct tape that I've cut into tiny, tiny, thin strips. It's because this is going to be a little too big. As you can see here, when I slide this onto here, see how it sticks out? Well, I want to make it a little tighter, because the tighter the fit, the better the spin I've found. Otherwise, it kind of wobbles around. So I've taken this little strip of tape, placing it right at that very edge where I glued it, and I'm going to wrap it around. And this is to almost just be like a washer. I'm making it out of washers, but I'm making my own duct tape washer. So this is almost just to be a buffer, I guess you would call it. And I'm just going to wrap that buffer around. And then I can snip off when I feel like I've got enough there. And just the main thing here that we got to make sure as you're making the spinner is that you've got a nice smooth spin. So make sure there's no sticky anywhere here. Now, if I take this spinner and place it right over, you can see that spins pretty nicely. And now I'm going to glue this other button on, right on the top here. The thing about this is that you have to be very, very careful. This is where you could accidentally get glue on your spinner mechanism and it'll stop spinning. So be really careful when you do this. And so to protect it, I'm just going to place this over top first. And then I'm going to put my glue down. And this will hopefully keep it from splooshing over the top there and getting stuck on my spinner base. Okay, there we go. Now the nice thing about hot glue is it only takes about 30 seconds to dry. But this is also really, really good. This super glue is really, really good. And I was able to get the super glue, but believe it or not, at the dollar store. Okay, so that should be about right. And we can pull that off of there. And now I can spin it. Now, if I feel like there's too much, see there's some silver there still? If I feel like I still need a little bit of extra, then I can come back and put another piece of this duct tape in as a buffer. Just make sure that that button is nice and secure before you do this, just so you don't knock it off of there. And you just wrap this around. Now please understand that I know that this is not, you know, going to spin as well as a real one, but you know what? It was kind of fun to make this, especially because I was making it with the kids and it was on site and it was totally their idea. We were playing with different things. And then I came back to the warehouse and I started working with stuff that I had, like the super glue. Okay, and the pens. So there you go. And there you have it. It's not as amazing, I know, as this one, but hey, it's something that you can personally make yourself. And you know what? Isn't that fun? And I'll tell you something. I've been actually playing with this, and it holds together really, really well. And I know, yeah, you can't do as many tricks and things like that, but you know, there's something kind of fun about playing with this, and especially since you've made it yourself. Now, if you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up and share us with your friends on social media. And you know, if you want more ideas for things that have been inspired by the kids that I have working with me at my arts and crafts tables, check us out at sophie-world.com. Spin.